We spend so much of our life trying to make this one thing happen. But when you really study wealth, it's about time, it's about family, it's about lifestyle, it's about having everything we always dreamed of, but not working 80 hours a week.
Right.
How do you do that?
Dan Sachkowsky, serial entrepreneur, business strategist, and now shifted to full-time business coaching to help you in your entrepreneurial endeavors.
Nobody in my family was ever an entrepreneur. My dad's like, those are rich people, we'll never be rich. So at 15 years old, it clicked. I wanted different. I go, I want to be rich. In my mind, I said, just because you don't want to do shit doesn't mean I can't do shit. Dude, I was the worst student in school, but just started reading these books and following successful people. Donald Trump, Robert Kiyosaki, these were the icons of the time back then in real estate development and everything. And these guys were making money.
You're finding it in just by being curious.
When we're kids, we have big dreams. Who shatters our dreams? Our parents. Because our parents stop allowing us to be children and want us to become adults. And when you become adult, then now they pour responsibility on you. And when you have responsibility, your dreams go away. But when you're a kid, nothing is impossible. So I made hundreds of thousands of dollars in my early 20s. I'm just literally living life. All of a sudden the phone stops ringing, 25 years old, zero. Went bankrupt.
Wow.
2007, economy crash.
So how are you helping people these days through your coaching program, helping entrepreneurs navigate some of their own challenges?
So money has to be secondary. If you chase money, you'll chase it for the rest of your life and you won't respect it and won't respect you. The average person says, if I just had more money.
Yeah.
If you just had more money, you just be a little bit more broke.
Yeah, because you'd find something else to spend money on.
Exactly.
Because you haven't addressed this.
There's opportunities and problems to grow and outgrow and get yourself into a better place. But if you focus on the problem, you're going to be stuck.
How does someone learn that fucking lesson without the failure? And is it possible?
I mean, you could learn it by
Welcome to another episode of the Real Mentors Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Sean Martin. Real stands for Real Examples, Altering Lives, and that's one of my guests who I have in studio today. I've got with me Dan Sachkowsky, serial entrepreneur, business strategist, and now shifted to full-time business coaching to help you in your entrepreneurial endeavors. Welcome to the show today.
Thanks, man.
Pleasure to have you, Dan.
Appreciate it.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. Where'd you grow up? And then we'll get into the business component of things. But I like to get a little backstory on my guests.
Sure. Grew up in Elizabeth, New Jersey, humble beginnings. Family, what I would say was probably below average. And, we lived in an apartment almost till I was 14. And then we moved to the suburbs. Grandparents and uncle came to move in a house. So it was the same crammed up situation that we were always in.
Just a bigger space.
Yeah. We just grew up in a way where I guess my grandparents are immigrants. My dad's grandparents are immigrants. So everyone just came here just to make a better living. And nobody in my family was ever an entrepreneur. We always just kind of lived week by week, day by day. Right. And I wanted different.
Right. And you were taught through the immigrant experience, which is you come here for a better life and you work your ass off.
Yeah.
But then you quickly learn the American way is not about working your ass off.
Right.
It's about creating something that adds value to other people's lives so that you can have, and not intentionally, people work their ass off for you.
Yeah.
So where is it that you are in your life where you just say, you know what, this working hard thing, which is brought on by my, I know personally now you're Polish and Portuguese background, which are both, hardworking European people that come over, because I have plenty of friends from both sides in search of that American dream. But where does it click for you? You know what? I don't want to be average. I want to do something extraordinary.
Yeah. So, growing up with humble beginnings, once we moved to the suburbs, I started seeing different. When you live in a very overpopulated city with high rises and apartments, it's kind of the same rush every day. Everyone's just kind of struggling to get by, walking groceries in their hands down the street. And then you move to the suburbs, people got nice cars, basketball courts in their backyard, pools. You're like, wow, this is different. And, then you got us where we got, 8 family members living in one house that the 4 family members should be living in, So people didn't come over often. And
there was no space.
Yeah. So you kind of see a different world. And I was transitioned to this different world. And, when we're kids, our friends become our friends because geography puts us there. And we're almost forced to be friends with people because that's our neighbor. That's the kid across the street. And we kind of have similar lifestyles. Unfortunately, I didn't have similar lifestyles to my new geography friends. They were doing things. They all had their own bicycles, skateboards, stuff like that. Me and my brother were still sharing a bike.
You thought everybody was rich.
Right.
And how old are you at this time?
14.
Okay, so yeah, prime years.
Yeah. So at that time, I believe we were 15 years old, and we're going back up north one day. I don't remember where, but we're in Sayreville in Bon Jovi. We passed Bon Jovi's house, on our way up north. Mm-hmm. And I've never been through a community, houses this big. I didn't think houses could be this big. And I'm like, what's this? And I remember like it was yesterday, my dad's like, those are rich people. We'll never be rich. So at 15 years old, it clicked. I go, I want to be rich. I don't like.
Was it partly because your dad said you can't do it, or what?
I just think what my dad did at that point was like, I was a skateboarder, I was a snowboarder, I was a football player. So I was actively like always trying to be my best. Got into bodybuilding at 15. And by my dad setting a limitation for me, that was a limitation for him. And I think at 15, I said to myself, like, just because in my mind, I said, just because you don't want to do shit doesn't mean I can't do shit. So I just started looking at the success foundation, the success principles, studying successful people. 16, I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. 16, I read Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. 16, I read Outwin the Devil. So like I started reading these books. Dude, I was the worst student in school. But just started reading these books and following successful people, Donald Trump, Robert Kiyosaki. Like these were the icons of the time back then in real estate development and everything. And these guys were making money.
Right.
So what was different between them and where I was? Conditional thinking, the way that we're taught, the way that we're brought up. And, we believe what we believe because we're taught to believe it. Right. And until we forget that way of thinking and start thinking the way that we want to be, nothing's ever going to change.
Who puts the fucking book in your hand, Think and Grow Rich or Rich Dad, Poor Dad at that, young age? Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I get it. At 16, required reading for an entrepreneurial house.
I was in the gym. And there was these guys that I used to like follow around. Like I was like a peasant, bro. Like you always following them everywhere. It's just these big jack guys. I wanted to be like them. And, one guy owned a couple tanning salons and, he had another big company. And I was just always asking him a lot of questions. They would help me out because I was curious.
Right.
And what was interesting was like the guys who were doing it were willing to help. And the guys who aren't doing it always have a problem, always have an attitude, always want to push you away, right. Always want to act the part, but they're not playing the part. So this one guy, Mike, was like, hey man, you're young, you're ambitious. And I said, I'm just like really trying to do better for myself and I want to be better. And he goes, I encourage you to read this book. Cause I would always tell him like while we were doing on the treadmill or talking to him, I would just tell him like, I had to ride my bike here cause my dad wouldn't drive me or whatever. Cause I was 15. So he told me to read that book. And when I read that book, it changed everything. I think I read it 3 times and I just really started developing this way. Like that's the way my dad thinks. Like, and then I went to vocational school for carpentry. I was able to work at 16 and 17 and I had a boss. My only time I ever had a job for 2 years. My boss's name was Dave. He was my rich dad. He was 30 something years old. He had 2 kids. He had 2 houses. He had just a beautiful life. And I was working with him, going to school half a day, working with him. And I started asking him like, hey, what are you doing this weekend? He goes, I got to work around the house. I go, can I come work around the house? And I started going to his house every single weekend, cleaning up his leaves, sweeping his basement.
So this is similar to the guys in the gym.
Yeah.
You're finding it in.
Yeah.
Just by being curious.
Yeah. So I was just asking him a lot of questions. How do you do this? I'll do anything. Just like tell me where I got to be. I wasn't looking to do for money. So I think the opposite approach in life is everyone's like, I'm not showing up unless there's something in it for me because they're looking at the money value, the short term. Mm-hmm. I saw the long term. I saw like, man, this is a life that I want and something that I've never seen before. How do I like dig into this? And that's exactly what I did. And he's the first person to ever tell me he believed in me. And at 17 years old, as soon as I was done with high school, I was still working for him. And I said, hey, Dave, listen, I appreciate everything you did. I'm going out on my own. He thought I was crazy, but he supported me.
Are you still in contact with Dave?
Yes.
Nice.
My first book, I wrote my first chapter about him. I literally like saw him. I think it was 90 days after the launch of the book. And I had a book in my car, chased him down the road. And I stopped him and I gave him a coffee. I'm like, man, you got to check this out. But yeah, I see him every once in a while. I talk to him every once in a while. But he changed my life, and he believed in me. And I think a lot of times, people get stuck in life because when we're kids, we have big dreams. Who shatters our dreams? Our parents. Because our parents stop allowing us to be children and want us to become adults. And when you become adult, then now they pour responsibility on you. And when you have responsibility, your dreams go away. For example, you're 17 years old, you're getting your first car. Hey man, you're lucky you got a car to take you from point A to point B.
Right.
But when you were young and you were 14 or 15 or 10, you wanted a Ferrari or you wanted a Corvette. Now all of a sudden you got a Honda Civic and you got roll-up windows. You're like, what's this shit?
Right. But you're happy to have it.
But what is your parents? You're not really happy. You're conditioned to be happy. You're lucky, right? Gotcha. Your parents are like, you're lucky you have a car. You know how many people don't have a car?
The language.
So now you start like breaking yourself down in this place where like, all right, well, I guess I'm lucky to have a car. I guess I'm lucky to have a roof over my head. And you just start backtracking. But when you're a kid, nothing is impossible. Right.
Well, I see it. I have a 3-year-old. So it's funny because I have an 8-year-old and a 3-year-old. And while the 8-year-old was 3 or I was grown, I was still drinking. So I was there, but I wasn't there. And to see and be invested, but also be on the self-development journey and be around the Tony Robbinses and the Dean Graciosis and all these amazing people that I get to meet doing the podcast, what I'm seeing is I get to now see it through a different lens. So the perspective of, and to your point, you're lucky to have this car. Now I got to teach my kids a lesson in the reverse because they have everything.
Yeah.
Everything that we would have dreamt of. And I'd be remiss to not ask you this question. So Dave, your mentor, and first person to tell you that he believed in you, which is fucking extremely powerful.
Yeah.
I wonder, you said, I got him too. Because I know that that's lacking. And that kills most people's dreams before they even get off the fucking tarmac is they don't have anybody who says, I believe in you.
Yeah.
I have a friend who's worth over $100 million and was on the podcast and he fucking broke down because he retold the story of the first coach that said, I believe in you and gave him a chance. And he blew the roof off the game.
Yeah.
Football, high school, or basketball rather. And again, just somebody has to believe in you. But I mentioned the kids to mention this. I wonder if Dave's kids, and this is not a knock on Dave because Dave is facing now the same obstacles that I face and you're probably going to face, is raising your kids now with money. I wonder, did Dave's kids follow in his footsteps or did they kind of maybe have an easier life and no knock on them, just maybe not have the same hunger and drive that I'm hearing you have?
Dave did exactly what I've done with my kids is Dave made his kids work for success. He never handed them anything. I think when our kids are younger, we give them things and do things for them so we can do them with them. But there comes a point where you need to kind of graduate that and say, okay, well, now if you want something, you've got to deserve it. You've got to earn it. Right. And a lot of times in life, a lot of parents today don't ever bring that point back in. They just continue to give. So actually all 3 of Dave's kids are now a part of his company. Dave's retired. The 3 boys own the company and they've blown it up.
Nice.
Right. So they've taken it to the next level. Same thing with my kids. I remember my kids growing up and their friends being like, oh, you're so lucky. You're so spoiled. Like you have a dirt bike, you have a side-by-side, you have a quad, you have all this stuff. You have a jet ski, whatever, but it's like, this is what I do with them. We do it together. So they're not out in the street. So they're not vaping. So they're not playing video games. We're doing this stuff together. We're spending our time together and it's our quality time. Number 1. Number 2, now that my boys are old enough and they have their own business, who's filling up the jet skis every weekend? $375, you're paying for it. Right. You know what I mean? I'm not paying for it because what that does is teaches them responsibility and teaches them now how to be an adult. And now, all right, maybe I'm not going to full throttle it the whole weekend because I have to pay for the gas. And now you start thinking differently, seeing things differently because you don't understand when dad or mom pays for everything, you kind of don't have a ceiling to hit and you don't look at things in the true perspective. Yeah. So he did the same thing with his kids and I watched his kids. I've met all his kids. I see them all striving and, I did the same thing with mine. My kids will never get anything.
How old are your kids now?
My oldest is about to be 21. My middle is 19 and my daughter's 15.
It's wild that you say that. So funny story, different but the same. We're down in Atlanta and I fly my family down because I got a speaking engagement and we've never been to Atlanta. I was like, let's go check it out. It's Alpharetta, a town outside of Atlanta. Go speak. We happen to be in this beautiful little mall My daughter's in there with my buddy's girlfriend, and they go dress shopping. Real cute, what girls do and shit. You don't have the girls, right?
I went with my daughter's 15.
Your 15-year-old, right? So you've experienced this then. But the money lesson here was she comes out of the dressing room, and this is a nice development, it's a nice place, it's a nice store. She wants to buy this dress. The shit costs $240, bro. And where I'm coming from is like, that's fucking ridiculous for an 8-year-old. But she's adamant, daddy, daddy, daddy. I said, I'll tell you what. It was just your birthday. You got $220 saved or whatever it is. The numbers may be off. Daddy will give you the extra 20 in the tax, but you're paying for it. You're willing to give a boy your birthday money for this? Obviously, she's in the moment. She says yes, right? Instant gratification, but not knowing a fucking thing about the value of money.
Yes.
To your point. We go out to lunch right after that as a big group at table with our friends, and we had just so ironically, the week before started talking about chores. You do basic chores and that qualifies you for bonuses. So you can earn up to $20 a week, let's say in the house doing advanced chores. I told her, listen, it would take you 11 weeks of doing all the chores to buy that dress. And that perspective shift, she spent the rest of the lunch toiling in her head, like, am I gonna fucking keep this dress on my head? She's 8, bro. And she's never really had a money lesson up to this point. Long story short, the next day, because it was the subject for 24 hours, she fucking returned the dress. Because without that perspective, everything's free.
Yeah.
And we have that problem in society today. I'm a guy who grew up in the projects. I was blessed enough to have a mom, single mom, who worked all her life. So I got the same work ethic you got from your parents. The only thing wasn't the limiting belief. So even though she believed she couldn't do it, she taught me early on that if you think you can, you can. If you think you can't, you can. Either way, you're right. And bro, I tell you, that shit's stuck. It's stuck.
Yeah.
Because she didn't teach me the financials. She didn't have the means to teach me the gas lesson or the dress lesson, but that fucking little inclination. So to your point, parents are just downloading their own shit on their kids, good, bad, or otherwise.
Yeah, it's true.
So now you've got this, you've got this perspective shift. You're going after money. What's your early career look like? Because I know it's in construction.
Yeah.
But you seem like a guy with big appetites. You're doing the weightlifting, the bodybuilding. What's that development years look like? Are you a school guy? Are you going jobs? What are you doing?
No, so 17, straight out of high school, bodybuilding. I was bodybuilding from like 16 to like 22. I realized, hey, I'm going to the gym at 4 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock at night, double sessions. My business is taking off. Like, I got to make a decision here. I'm probably never going to be a massive pro, and most pros don't make a lot of money without sponsors, and the percentage is very, very small. So Arnold made his money on real estate, and my boy, who's a trainer, my bodybuilder, he's like, fucking Arnold lied to everybody. It was like, you thought you could actually make money in that. Yeah. And you see fucking Kai Green just couldn't crack the code. Living in an apartment.
And fucking broke in Brooklyn or wherever he's from. It's crazy. So sorry to interrupt.
Same thing. Like, Ronnie Coleman was a police officer forever, So like, you don't see this stuff till later on in life, but I made a decision that I was going to do construction. It was more lucrative. I figured it was going to be an easier way. So I made hundreds of thousands of dollars in my early 20s. 24 years old, $684,000. I remember the number like it was yesterday. 25 years old, zero. Went bankrupt.
Wow.
2007, economy crash. So graduate high school, start a construction company. You're in the best economic times that you've ever seen. I never experienced a bad time. S55 AMG, 2 Escalades, house in Cabo, like everything, bro. Biggest house on the block. All my neighbors' kids were older than me. Thought I was a drug dealer. But
I've gotten that before.
So I'm just like literally living life. All of a sudden the phone stops ringing. You got $30,000, $40,000 a month in overhead at 24 years old. What am I doing? So at that point I was chasing money, right? Because I wanted to be rich. And I thought at that point, big house, all this stuff, that's rich.
Right.
Lose everything, bankrupt at 24. I still got my kids. They're healthy. My boys at the time, they're healthy. What am I here to worry about? Like I chased a dream. I tried to make $1 million a year in one space and I messed up. I did it to myself because I kept myself in the zone. Now moving forward, how do I go and say, if I want to make $1 million a year, I need 5 outlets, 5 distribution centers, because every single person who's wealthy that I've read about and I've studied, they don't make money in one spot. So how do I create 5 income streams? If this ever happens again, 2 or 3 of these go away, I'm still making money. So that's what I decided to do. I'm going to build this up. I'm going to build that up. I'm going to build this up. And I just started literally, how can I master this? How can I create something that's systematic? It's working. Take some time away, go build something else. And over the last, 15, 16 years, that's what I did. I built multiple companies, and I was able to take my time and implement systems, processes, and build teams that kept everything moving by me walking away and going to build something else. And now, like, the economy's slow, I don't have to worry about it. Making a little bit of money here, some more money over here, focus on what's going on. We spend so much of our life trying to make this one thing happen. But when you really study wealth, it's about time. It's about family. It's about lifestyle. It's about having everything we always dreamed of, but not working 80 hours a week.
Right.
How do you do that? Right. So most people who are in business, they're making $1 million a year, $100 million. They're miserable. Why? Because they're working 80 hours a week, 60 hours a week. They can't do shit.
Right.
So I had to figure out at a young age, because I think that bankruptcy point was like a wide open lane for me. Like, it really showed me this is the best thing that ever happened to me.
Right.
Because I could have been 4 or 5 times the size 5 years, 10 years later. Right. And lost
Kids
it all.
don't have the same dad. You're a fucking miserable fuck.
Yep.
Listen, let the worst thing that ever happened to you be the best thing that ever happened for you. Was the fucking best way I've ever heard it described by a colleague and friend, Josh Kosnick. And that's what happens to you. So at 24, you go bankrupt. You already had kids at that point.
2 boys.
The 2 boys, the oldest. Holy shit.
Yeah.
That's the Portuguese Polak side of you. You want to fucking start a family young.
Yeah, I was just, I was hustling, and I was hanging out with these older guys from the gym. They were my friends. They were all in business. They were 10 years older than me. I was hanging out on their yacht. I was like, their little brother.
Right.
But I was influenced by the older, because everyone in my age was getting drunk, going to college, having parties. I didn't do any of that. I missed my entire 18 to 21-year-old life because I was grinding. Right. But then everyone else looks at it, and I still look at people today that they have degrees. They're still living on their mom's couch.
Right.
20-something years later. Right. Why? Because they followed the choice. Right.
I think people are just ignorant to it. I think they're looking for security and safety. And you know better because you're an entrepreneur that there is no safety. There is no sure thing with a job, but it just feels that way. And the unknown is scary, bro. Yeah. So how are you helping people these days through your coaching program, helping entrepreneurs navigate some of their own challenges? Because as you and I are grateful enough to know, it's more about mindset than anything else. Yeah. And money's an energy. Yes. And how we attract it to us is by valuing the time that we're spending and impacting the lives.
Money has to be secondary. Yeah. If you chase money, you'll chase it for the rest of your life, and you won't respect it and won't respect you. So,
anybody ever teach you that lesson coming up?
No, I learned it throughout.
It's usually the fucking. And I say to everybody, I'm like, I can tell you that you're blue in the face, and you probably will just have to experience it for yourself.
I mean, the average person says, if I just had more money. Yeah. If you just had more money, you'd just be a little bit more broke.
Yeah, because you'd find something else to spend money on.
Exactly.
Because you haven't addressed this. Yeah. So where does that start for you?
So that started when I was 26. And I realized no more nanny, because we had a nanny raising our boys. Things were different. No more Escalades. Oh shit, I had to buy a used Tahoe and a used Yukon. That, I had to humble myself.
You're slumming it, bro.
Right? I had to put my pride in my back pocket, humble myself, and say, you know what? My family needs to eat. Right. So I always tell people, I was at a point where I said, if I can make $1 million a year selling lipstick, I'll do it. Do I like lipstick? No. Do I use lipstick? No. But you know what? There's a market for it. So I just said, I have to find passion and purpose, put it together, and deliver to the market. So as long as we become solution driven, everyone has a problem. So how do you become a problem solver for people? And how do you deliver a solution? So that's where I started thinking of it at a young age. How can I be a solution driven individual where I can just be a problem solver and show people how to take their biggest obstacle, their biggest problem, and solve it? Because there really isn't a problem. There's opportunities and problems to grow and outgrow and get yourself into a better place. But if you focus on the problem, you're going to be stuck.
Yeah. I like to say obstacle because now I know the value of language. So funny you said focus on the problem, right? And this probably get me in trouble, but I had Jamie Herena on the show, who's a female coach from Jersey, no less, and one of my coaches, fucking phenomenal. And we spoke about, why women and men differ in the coaching space. And she was like, because women tend to focus on the problem. And when you focus on the problem, you get into the weeds and you get fucking lost because now you're just focusing on the negativity. And I don't mean to throw women under the bus and I say it tongue in cheek, but that's a problem that everybody has. It's like, poor me, you're 24, you're on top of the world. You fell off your fucking, your platform. It would have been easier for you to quit if you didn't have those responsibilities. Was having your children at that point. So maybe, remember I joked, who has kids that young? It's the ethnic background. But then at the same point, if you don't have those kids, what does your life look like now? Because I'm sure getting up for you is one thing at 24 with no kids. Getting up for your kids and your family at 24 when all this shit is happening is entirely different. I changed my
perspective back then. I think most people look at the obstacle in the opportunity.
Right.
I looked at the opportunity in the obstacle. How do I ungear this and unwind this and make it work? So most people don't understand there's a lesson to be learned in everything that we do. And as long as we follow through and we grow and go through things instead of getting stuck in things, there's always something to be learned. And that door is supposed to close because something greater is on the other side. And as an entrepreneur, man, listen, I've lost millions of dollars. I've made millions of dollars. Like in one day, I could lose $500,000 on an investment, and it happens. But the average person is not built for that. This is something that you have to build your tolerance up for. It's like an alcoholic. An alcoholic builds his tolerance up to drink a 30-pack a day where he used to get drunk off of 3.
Right.
An entrepreneur builds his tolerance off of cracking that code and being able to go through a loss of 10,000, now $1 million, now 10 million. So it's the same thing, but it's the opposite of addiction.
Right.
In a bad way, it's in a good way.
And, part of our type A personalities, there is an addictive part of it. Has that ever been an issue for you in the past? Like partying, drugs, alcohol, any of that shit?
No, just when I was working out for years, like I did steroids and stuff, and I was just talking to a guy on the phone today and I said, I would agree that I was addicted because you can never get big enough.
Yeah.
But I wasn't a drug addict ever. My brother battled, drug abuse, heroin for many, many years. He's 7 years sober now, 5 years, something like that.
Congratulations, bro.
I never was an alcoholic, casual drinker. Right now, I don't do anything. I don't drink.
But it translated to the working out and the money.
Yeah.
That was what your addiction was. It was like, that was fueling you. And it was to a point where I'm sure there was some unhealthy things. How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
43.
All right, so we're about the same age. I got you by a few years. I just don't let the beard grow out. So
I used to dye it, but I'm just embracing it.
It wouldn't be very authentic of you to fucking dye it, bro.
Yeah.
So keep it like that. It looks good. What are the companies that you built when you came out of this bankruptcy?
All construction-based companies, from just major renovation. I'm talking like jobs from 200 to 600,000 up into home building, building homes that were anywhere from $1 million to $3 million.
Right. So now you're getting to build some of these houses you were gawking at as a kid. How fucking cool is that to come full circle? So, and you're already living in one too.
One thing I teach people is like, I could always read, and this is what I teach my coaching clients. I can always read a blueprint to build a house, but I never made a blueprint to live my life. And that's what I do now. It's like the reversal. Like we can build everything we want to build, but if we don't build the life inside of that, what's it worth?
What was your, how important is faith to you now? And how important was it along the way when you were younger?
So I grew up Catholic, and I tell people like I'm a recovering Catholic. No disrespect.
We all did. We're Dominicans, so same thing.
So you again, conditional, traditional, church, Sunday, this, that, another thing. You go Easter and Christmas. That's the most filtered holiday, right? So my one son was 18 months old, 2007. He falls out of a window. I'm going to a meeting on a Saturday morning. 2 stories above me, above my garage. He falls right in front of me on the floor. He turned white, man, like a ghost. Thought he was dead. I became a Christian over the next, I would say 60 days. A guy I met in business, I've only known him for 2 weeks. He was a Christian. He stuck around, came to the hospital. Their families made food, did everything. Everyone else didn't even care, even family, you know what I mean? Wasn't even interested in what was going on. It was like, hey, let me know how I can help. These guys I didn't even know. So they delivered me to, check out church again and reinvest in God and reinvite him into my life. And that's what I did. We went to a couple churches. The first church we went to, bro, it was crazy. People were falling down. I was like, I can't do this. This is wild, right?
You went to the extreme.
I went to the extreme. People were talking in tongues. People were like passing out. I'm like, no, I can't do this. So
this is in Jersey?
In Jersey, yeah.
Holy shit. It sounds like we're down south or something.
Yeah, it was wild. And then I went to the Catholic church because my mom was like, oh, just come to the Catholic church because my mom's hardcore Catholic still. And I did exactly what I did when I was 12 years old. I fell asleep. It was boring. And
Neil Stanson. Yeah,
so I started, just introducing myself to new places, trying to find a home. And I think after like 2 or 3 places that we went to, we visited just one church about 4 times. And I go, this is it.
Pastor felt like home.
Yeah, pastor had a business, pastor had kids, he had a family, finances. And everything that he was talking about was relating, how the principles of the Bible work with life and putting it all together. And it all made sense. So 2007, I got saved and became a Christian again. And I started leading. Am I a perfect Christian? No, but Jesus knew that none of us would be perfect, right? But every single day I read devotionals, I journal every single day. And, I just ask God to lead me. And ever since I've been doing that, no matter how bad I fail at things and no matter, he's always there to pick me up, and at the end of the day, like he took the ultimate sacrifice for us to go through everything, but he wants this crazy abundance in our life. But I always tell people, like, you'll never be blessed if you're not blessable. Like, you can't be like a fake Christian or like, I thank you, God, for good, but I don't thank you for bad. I always tell God, like, hey, listen, like during this episode of my life, whatever's going on, just show me what you're trying to show me through it. Get me through it, show me through it, build me through it. And I think so many people are upset with God or mad at God when bad things happen versus realizing the lesson behind it. And they only want to thank God when good things happen. Right. And that's the total opposite of the way we should live. We should always be grateful. Yeah. So every single day I start off with like 3 things that I'm grateful for. And then, I read the devotionals. I read 5 of them every day. And I just journal about, how good yesterday is, where I want to be today and what's going on in my life, because getting that out just does something.
Christianity is definitely, it's like the moral teachings of Jesus Christ. It's a book I read, ironically enough, when I was in prison. My wife had a book report due. She was finishing up her 4-year degree. It was on Thomas Jefferson. And I was like, I love history. I hope you write it. And I read it. And it was basically the moral teachings of Jesus Christ with all the superstitious hocus pocus stuff removed. And that was the first time that it really sat with me like, oh, okay, this is what the Bible is without all that other stuff that always turned me off to it. And then here we are almost 20 years later. And for the first time, about 6-8 months ago, I stepped into a church again, Christian church in my neighborhood, but it didn't feel like home. So much to your point, I've got great people around me who keep reminding me that faith, even though I have it, and I get on my knees and I pray, and I thank God for the obstacles they place in my way, which is essentially gratitude, I still haven't found a home in a church under the Christian banner. But
you have the hope.
Oh, I do. And I believe in the teachings.
Is the substance of all things hoped for. And as long as you keep going, keep looking, it's going to come.
Yeah, I have no doubt. Yeah. But that confidence only comes, my brother, with the wins. Yeah. And you've been winning since you were young. You've been losing because that goes with competing.
I've lost way more than I won.
Well, that's the norm.
It's irrelevant.
That's the way it is. And most people give up before the magic happens. Yeah. You had some great people around you, but you also had the fucking fire, the spark. Do you have other people in your circle, in that house you grew up in, that have become successful in the way you have, or is this unique to you?
I'm the black sheep.
In a good way.
Yeah.
And but where does that, is it the competitiveness? Is it the hunger? Because we try to dissect and get to the root of, what separates those who make it from those who don't. I think most people want it. I also know that most people want to just be comfortable. So let's not, if everybody were an entrepreneur, right, who the fuck would work for the company? But who was the inspiration, or what was the inspiration? Was it sports? What was the thing, man, that gave you the fire?
I just didn't like the way I grew up. I didn't like the limited beliefs. I wanted to break the barriers of, all these barriers that were around me, because this is who we were and the identity that was created in my family. And I think, as you say, everybody wants it. I don't think everyone wants it. I think everyone likes the idea of it.
Perfectly said.
But what happens is people become too comfortable. I literally was making a video as I walked up the street here, and I said, you got to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And we get in places in life where, comfort, as you get older, it's just about stroking through life and being comfortable and not having to go through the motions anymore. People want to make the excuse that they're tired. I've done so much. And at the end of the day, people don't really understand the limitations they put on themselves, because every single one of us, no matter what point we are in our life, has absolute greatness ahead of us. But it's if we decide to go after it. There's so many things that come across our path, but it's all about the association. It's all about the belief. I have, I think, 15 TVs in my house. I don't watch any TV. You know what I'm saying? I don't put on any TV because I don't have time for it. By the time I'm done with my day, I'm passed out.
Right. You don't want to fucking sit down and you probably just pass out.
So what's influencing you? What's taking you to that place? Who are you surrounding yourself with and all that kind of stuff?
You mentioned the word identity. And identity is ultimately what pulls us toward these great things, right? People set goals, people have visions, people have things they want to do, right? You said it well, thank you. I'm going to use that, by the way, moving forward. But then they see the work that's involved or that it takes, and it just deters them. But if your identity is, you're going to be Mr. Olympia, Ronnie Coleman, right? Dorian Yates, all these guys, that's all they're seeing, tunnel vision in the fucking, the blinders are on. They're going forward. Things are suffering around them, but that's why people will remember their name long after they're gone. Sometimes I wonder if I'm built to be that thing. But again, if it weren't scary, uncomfortable, to your point, then what really am I trying to fucking accomplish anyway? So how do you help your clients realize, overcome, adapt, and then fucking apply the things that you've learned in your teachings to help them scale their own businesses and build more of a well-rounded life?
I bring them back to when they started their business. Where did you think you would be in 5-10 years from now? When you started your business, what did you want to happen to your life? And what were the shifts that you were trying to create by becoming a business owner? Now, we're almost at the end of 2025. We got a few months left. People set goals all the time and they don't chase them because they let life happen the way life happens. You talked about Dorian Yates, you talk about Ronnie Coleman, you talk about some of the best baseball players out there, some of the best players. People who win don't compete with other people. People who win compete with themselves. Too many times people fail in business because they're looking at the guy to the right and the guy on the left, and they're saying, oh, look at what he's doing. How come I'm not like that? Versus, how can I improve? How can I be one step better tomorrow than I was today? What are some of the things that I would change if I had the opportunity to tomorrow? And they're not focusing on being their best self. They're looking at everybody else and wondering why they're passing them. Right. People of greatness don't worry about anybody else. And at the end of the day, if you're here to build a legacy, it has to live beyond you. You've got to build something and create something that once you're gone, it's gone. So the day you're born, you don't know. The day you die, you don't know. The only thing you can control is the hash in between. That's what people remember you by. When people are laughing around your casket, they're talking about that hash. Right. And that hash will live on forever. Did you do good shit? Did you do bad shit? What did you do? How is your family going to be remembered? How are you going to be remembered? Are you being your best? Well, when you were a kid, around that time that you were born, 10, 15 years later, you had all these dreams and aspirations. But now when you come to those final days of life, it's like I tell people, you're going to go to heaven one day. You're going to stand in front of Jesus and he's going to say, okay, listen, I literally laid the plan out for you, but you had more excuses than reason. Then I'm going to be right behind that person that he pushes aside and he goes, bro, I don't know what you did, but you blew the fucking lid off of it. That's the way I live. How can I be my max, do my max, not worry about everyone else? Someone asked me today, you have any time for yourself? Like, I'm like, yeah, I have tons of time for myself. They're like, you do so much. I regulate my time so I can get so much done when the average person just wants to stay busy for 8 hours and get paid for 8 hours.
And do nothing.
Right.
Right. Or you crack out some fucking files or this many units or whatever, but you're not doing it for yourself. You're a cog in the wheel. So, for you, what is it that a great day looks like, being that you're a great time manager? And, how can you help shift people? Because that's admittedly one of my worst. I have all the freedom that I've created for myself, and I find myself kind of freewheeling sometimes. And it works for me to some extent, but I know that I could take it notches above if I were to just dial that in just a bit. So
number one, build the life that you want. And number two, show up to it, right? So whatever it is that you want to see throughout your day, you got to kind of create a schedule. And the problem that we have in this world is we don't know how to say no to things that weren't in our day. I say no to everything.
You touched on the subject of saying no because your time is valuable. And most people don't realize that saying no is going to lead to more yeses. Can you just dive a little bit into that?
Yeah, so there's a lot of things you should say no to. So I think, especially starting off your day, I think a lot of people, the minute they wake up, they grab their phone. They want to check their messages. They want to see who texts them. They want to check social media. So what happens is they're starting to check into the world and see what the world's doing before they get themselves ready for the world. So now what happens is you see a bad post, what happened yesterday. You start seeing that all over your feed. You see 9/11 today, you start seeing that all over your feed. You start seeing someone who's putting irate comments in one of your posts. You see that all over your feed. Now it's set the tone for your day. It's almost like when you wake up in the morning and you kick your toe on the bottom of the bed and you complain about it for the next 8 hours. So I literally don't even pick up my phone for the first hour a day. I set myself up for me, coffee, water, protein shake, sitting in my chair. I have a lazy boy. I sit in every day, pillow behind me, and I just lay back and I read and I journal and I get myself ready to deliver. And most people, they rush themselves through the day. Like you have to be somewhere, leave the house at 7, you're waking up at 6:30. That's the biggest problem in this world is people rush through life just to get through it. And another thing is saying no about stuff that's like maybe not in your daily calendar we talked about before. Yeah. So if something's not in your calendar, for example, people go, hey, could you do a call today? No, I can't do a call today. Let's schedule a call. Reason being is I got my day set up. I know what's going on. I've already like pre-planned how I'm going to go through my day. And if it's going to be tight, I'm not just going to take something on because it's good. The power of waiting is people realize like your time's valuable. And you don't like jump for everything they do. It's just like answering emails, answering text messages. People feel like the minute someone emails them, they got to respond back. Like I'll respond back like 2 days later, 3 days later. You want to know why? Like when I get to it, I get to it. A guy said yesterday, hey, I sent you an email yesterday. I just want to make sure you got it. I go, yeah, I got it. Text me again the next day. He's like, yo, did you see your email? I go, bro, when I get to it, I get to it. You know what I mean? I'll sit behind my computer all the time. When I get to my email,
guilty. He didn't read who, not how like we did.
Right. So at the end of the day, it's like, if it's not in your planner, don't make it important. If someone calls you up today and they go, hey, you want to go play golf today? And it wasn't in your calendar for the last week, you don't go play golf. Because that's when things don't happen for the right reasons. Always follow through on what you're supposed to do. So I talk about I tell my kids, you have this list in life. You have a to-do list and you have a not to-do list. You're going to have all these things that you have to do, you have to do, and you're going to set yourself to do it. Then your friend's going to call you and say, hey, you want to go here? Yeah, why? It's fun. Right. But it's not productive. So everything in your day has to be productive. And even though something else may want to fill in and be productive, schedule it. Schedule everything because that sets your boundaries, number one. Number two, it lets people know how valuable your time is and how that if they can't wait for you, you don't want to do business with them anyway. You want to be connected with them anyway. Just let them go. And it'll teach you a lot of lessons doing stuff like that. So I wake up in the morning, maybe let's say 5:30, 6 o'clock. I'm reading, I'm journaling, and then I'm hitting the gym and then, eating some breakfast and going outside maybe and, whatever, nothing. And taking a couple phone calls, walking around. 12 o'clock, I'm at jujitsu. 1:30, I'm home, taking another call. Whatever that life looks like. Now, throughout the day, am I texting, am I emailing? Yes.
Of course.
But this morning I was at breakfast with someone. Tomorrow I could be at dinner with someone and I could still live the life I want with the balance because I basically forgot about checkers and I started playing chess. And I started lining up the right pieces at the right places so my moves were strategic. And a lot of people want to do everything. I've learned how to pay people to do everything. Even though I may make less, I have my most valuable asset, which is my time, which allows me to buy so many more things in life.
Listen, I have heard that spoken by myself and so many other people so many times on the show. Who, not how, essentially, right? You made the same mistakes, I'm sure, in the beginning, which is you try to do it all.
Yeah.
How does someone learn that fucking lesson without the failure? And is it possible?
I mean, you could learn it by hiring a coach, right? So there's people who've hired me who haven't had epic fails yet. So I basically like help them not have the epic fails. But I like working with people who fall flat on their face because you know how it feels.
Yeah.
Now you want to make that mistake again? No, I said, I posted a video earlier, like to make 100 grand, you're not going to do the same thing to make 500 grand, to make $1 million. You got to change the way you're doing things. Yeah. And we only have so much time in a day. And you have to be good at doing nothing and allowing everybody else to do everything for you to grow. Nobody has ever ripped the roof off of anything or made millions and millions of dollars on their own. They got a team behind them.
Yeah. The only people that do that play the lotto, and that's not for us.
Yeah, but they lose it all anyway.
Yeah, that's funny. I was in Bay Colony, which is where PBD lives, and my buddy was looking at a house. This is in Florida, Fort Lauderdale. And the guy we're driving by, the broker, he's showing us the neighborhood. Shit looks phenomenal, right? This is where the money in Fort Lauderdale's moving. Messi has a house there. So all kinds. I think the cheapest house was like, the dirt was like $4 million for like a little parcel, quarter acre or whatever. The guy drives by and he's like, yeah, this guy won the lotto. And he's telling the story of the guy who lives there who won the lotto. And people seem to feel he's going broke because he's just pissing it away. Because when you take somebody from 0 to 100, they have no fucking clue how to manage that because they didn't take the bumps, the bruises. So I love the fact that you said you love working with people who have fell on their face. And not to knock anybody who hasn't yet, it's gonna fucking happen. No matter how hard you try to not avoid failure, it's gonna happen unless you're playing it safe. And if you're playing it safe, you're probably not being coached by you or anybody else. You're just doing the thing that everybody else, the majority of society does.
It's like pro sports. How many times do they fail versus how many times do they win? How many strikeouts versus how many home runs? You know what I mean? How many balls versus how many strikes? Like you got to kind of look at life the same way. Right. We're going to strike out. But we're only going to hit a home run once in a while. But those strikeouts make us better. It's practice, practice, practice. Right. And if you don't have that practice, you're not going to be able to hit that ball, drive that ball. And you may do it by luck.
Right.
But you're never going to be able to recoup yourself because that luck is soon going to fall off. Mm-hmm. And now you're going to not going to be able to know, like, how do I get myself back? So when you fail in life and you humble yourself, things start to change differently. Your perspective changes, things change around you, your circles change, people who you thought were in your corner change. Like you start seeing all these things that you're like, wow, I'm redirecting everything, but I'm using this for my next pivot.
Yeah, you change your mind, you change the world because nothing has to change but the way you perceive it. And I think money and success is a huge part of that. You surrounded yourself early on with people that were successful, supported you, believed in you most importantly, and found success. So kudos to you, brother. I wanted to thank you for coming on the show. Can you please tell our audience where to find out more about you, your coaching program, and tell us what's next for you?
Sure. You could find me on Instagram. That's my biggest platform, Big Dan Official. You could check out bigdcoaching.com. That's my coaching platform. What's next for me is I'm doing some big events here throughout the Northeast. November 6th, I have an event with Bedros Keuilian coming in from California. He's actually my coach. And we're going to be showing people how to go from overworked, underpaid employee to CEO. We're going to show them the blueprint of how to actually own their business, run their business, and operate their businesses through systems, processes, and how to buy their most valuable time back, their assets. So that's going to be November 6th in New Jersey around the Edison area. We're still locking down the venue. And that's it, So I'm just really growing, my real estate portfolio, all my investments, my coaching business. And I'm using social media, mostly Instagram, to just build my entire network. And just remember that your network is your net worth. That's how you grow things.
Thank you for coming out, brother. It's been an absolute pleasure. I appreciate the conversation. As always, we'll have Dan's information in the bio. So if you like what you heard, you can find out more. Thank you as always for tuning in, and let's get it.